नमस्कार। आज की वीडियो फिर से एक न्यूज़ चैनल की वीडियो है। आई नो इट हैज़ बीन लाइक ट्वाइस इन अ रो, बट आई एम अफ्रेड इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी मच लॉन्गर क्योंकि ये वीडियो बहुत ज़्यादा लंबी है एंड आई विल हैव टू डिवाइड इट इनटू 2 or 3 पार्ट्स। Anyway, I found this video very interesting. I've already watched it, so it's not going to be a reaction. But I found some of the points were very interesting, and I needed to share it with you guys, especially because here we do a mixture of intellectual conversation and political conversation, and this video has both. Since Nirmala Sitharaman is a member of Rajya Sabha and used to be a political commentator and spokesperson for the BJP, so she has mastery in both the fields. So it is the discussion is very interesting. I'll give link to this video in the description. Go and check it out. I'll also give the link to all my social media handles in the pinned comment. You can follow me as well. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's start.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 21st edition of the India Today Conclave. It's an absolute delight and pleasure to have all of you with us. Can we have a round of applause as you welcome our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The theme of this year's conclave is India's rapidly changing position in the emerging global order. And central to that is the strength of the Indian economy. The International Monetary Fund has projected, and I have a slide that's coming up behind your screen, that India could be a $6.9 trillion economy by 2028. What's the unfinished reform agenda? What more do we need to do to move with the maximum speed and purpose possible? And what are the pitfalls that can derail us along the way? To talk about this, we're kicking off the first session at this year's conclave with our Finance Minister, who now is one of India's most experienced finance ministers, and at this moment, the odds-on favorite to present a seventh budget in July potentially. So, Nirmala Sitharaman ji, welcome to the conclave, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you. I also want to welcome my colleagues and co-moderators for this session, Anjana Kashyap, Aajtak's star anchor and editor, and also Siddharth Zarabi, the managing editor of Business Today Television. So, welcome. Let's get started. Ma'am, can you begin by outlining the unfinished reform agenda? To achieve that kind of growth from where we are right now, if your government gets another chance, what more do you believe needs to be done beyond the reform measures that you've already put in place for India to unlock its true potential and rise and grow at the maximum speed possible?
Thank you, India Today, for having me over. And I thought Rahul's comment about most experienced was a bit tongue-in-cheek. He comes out as somebody who doesn't believe in it himself. But never mind, I'll allow that. In no order of priority, the kind of reforms which we need to undertake now, I would think, in whichever sector you would want to take it, will have to have greater coordination between the center, the states, and the urban local bodies, panchayats, and so on. In the last 10 years, my experience, at least limited to my experience, I can tell you, you may do wonderful futuristic reforms at the central government level. And most states understand that it benefits them as well. And they do also, in synchrony, do things which are going to help both center and states. And it is only when you touch that layer, the third layer, you find many of them are almost getting blocked. In the sense, it's not an intentional block. It's more a question of they understanding what it can do for them and also trying to make sure that they can easily slip into that process so that up from the central government down to the panchayat. Because after all, when industries set up their businesses, they have to set it up in the ground, at the panchayat level. So if all those great reforms are happening elsewhere and it's not really borne out in the panchayat level, it's not going to help at all. So there has to be a lot of work done from top level in the sense of center, state, and the third level, elected governments. So that is one thing I think across the sectors. When you undertake reforms, it has to have that effect of cascading down to the lowest level.
You know, the finance minister felt maybe that comment was tongue in cheek. It wasn't. It's an
I knew you
absolute
were going to come
statement
back
of
on
fact.
Oh my god. पहली बात तो like this answer was not very clear because she said that it is being blocked but not why it is being blocked at the panchayat level. But Rahul he focused on a different point, like he took it personally कि मेरे बारे में ऐसा क्यों बोला. So he completely ignored what she said and instead of counter questioning her that to be more specific, he is like talking about his personal comment.
And she is indeed one of India's most experienced finance ministers now and in very august company. And truly, without tongue being in cheek and just stating the fact for is the odds-on favorite to be back in July. Both of those are absolute statements of fact. She's just being humble and modest, and that's just the way she is. On the tricky aspects of reform, so the government tried to deal with land reform. The government tried to deal with agricultural reform. Both occasions, the government and the Prime Minister ended up burning their hands and backtracked. GST reform again has been an area where progress hasn't been made beyond where we've reached. Do you think those are areas that you have a philosophy or a framework to be able to navigate, or will they remain just political hot potatoes?
With due respects to those who protested on those, I would like to say those bills, when passed in the parliament, you can have 1,000 commentary on it saying, could the debate in the Rajya Sabha be held for 1 extra hour? It would have brought in more speakers. You can nitpick on those things. But they were the very reforms that, when in power, those governments, those ministers who held power at that time, were all vouching for. They wanted the agriculture reform. They wanted the land reform, labor codes. These are things when people wanted it, they spoke very much about it.
Even the CAA.
Records in the parliament show it. But when you politically conveniently sitting in the opposition protest against every one of this, your hypocrisy is what is getting exposed. And as much as this election, 2024 Lok Sabha, people see a delivering government, a visionary prime minister, and many other things which this government has done, I think they are also seeing how hypocritical in protesting against every good measure this government took was the current opposition. People are seeing that as well. So if the environment is building up for Prime Minister to come back, it's getting built up. On the one hand, 2/3 on what the government has done and the vision with which this government is functioning, and at least 1/3 goes to those hypocrites who wasted the parliament's time. And people are realizing we have not sent them there for it. Hypocrites who spoke in favor of some policies who are speaking against it now. So it is a blend of a hypocritical opposition which has got exposed and the fantastic work which Prime Minister has done during most difficult time with transparency. 10 years, every journalist, I'm sure, searched for at least one little straw of corruption. You couldn't find one.
Anjana.
There is a video titled BJP's Real Power. I reacted to it a while ago, in which J. Sai Deepak is talking about कि कैसे opposition is digging its own grave by not choosing its issues well. So that is exactly what she's talking about right now. I'll give the link to that video in the iCard. So anyway, so she's saying kaise opposition is backtracking on all the promises that they made while they were in power. They were supporting those reforms and now they're not doing so. And people are realizing that same thing. Okay, just because you're in opposition, you are opposing what you wanted in the first place. So that is the real power of BJP, so to speak, because there is this lack of credible opposition. Maybe you could have supported those reforms, but you could have nitpicked. You could have said कि ये कमी है और implementation में ये कमी है. We could have done it better in such manner. And people have become smarter. They would realize this. right? They will know, okay, if we are talking specifics, then also people have become smarter and they can comment on them, they can do critical thinking on that. But the opposition is not doing that. Opposition is still sitting with that entitled mindset कि लोग तो बेवकूफ़ हैं और हम स्मार्ट हैं, हम जो कहेंगे लोग सोचेंगे कि ये स्मार्ट लोग हैं तो ये सही ही कर रहे होंगे. So they are sitting with that kind of mindset and it is costing them.
वित्त मंत्री जी, जब प्रधानमंत्री ने सबसे पहली बार तीसरे टर्म की बात की तो वो ऐसे ही हॉल में बैठे थे जहां बहुत बड़े बड़े बिजनेस टाइकून्स बैठे हुए थे और उसका सारा का सारा बोझ आपके कंधों पर डाल दिया, क्योंकि उन्होंने कहा कि तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था हम अपने देश को बनाएंगे. 370 का टारगेट भी दे दिया है. तो 3 बहुत ज्यादा है जो आपको मैनेज करने हैं. लेकिन सवाल आता है कि क्या आप ये चुनौती देखती हैं? आरबीआई से लेकर प्रधानमंत्री सबने रेवड़ियों पर बहुत कंसर्न जताया. यहां तक आरबीआई ने कहा कि परिस्थितियां कई राज्यों में, राजस्थान, पश्चिम बंगाल, बहुत खराब है, इसको रोकना जरूरी है. लेकिन जो एक पार्टी के लिए रेवड़ी है वो आपकी पार्टी तक आते आते सोशल वेलफेयर स्कीम, कल्याणकारी स्कीम बन जाती है. क्या ये मापदंड सही है? और इसी प्रश्न का दूसरा हिस्सा है कि क्या अर्थव्यवस्था को तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनाने में बतौर वित्त मंत्री आपको ये सबसे बड़ी चुनौती नहीं लगती है, जो चुनावी वक्त में भी सारे एक के बाद एक इतने पैसे देंगे, इतने फ्री बस राइड्स देंगे, जो फ्रीबीज जिसे हम कहते हैं, सभी पार्टियां ऐलान कर रही हैं.
Anjana ji, you're as usual trying, and I'm going to do it in English. I'll try to speak in Hindi, but I'll lose my thought flow because, I'll be searching for words in Hindi. You're as usual, and as is typical with media, and I don't blame you for it. You do this balancing act. What is Revdi for you is not Revdi for them. Come on. You do not have a budgetary support for some fantastic idea that you throw about. And then once you get the vote, you don't have money to fund that. And then you go about blaming the central government, which has not sought vote with you for the same Revdi. But you want the central government to fund you because you had these fancy baskets of lollipops given for the people. Look at the example, and I'm sitting here to talk politics. Look at the example of Karnataka. A state 1 year ago was doing very well. Global Investors Summit drew the best of people to come and invest in that state because it's a fantastic state, draws excellent talent from all over the country, beautifully endowed, and has the right environment of blend of culture, industry, enterprise, and everything else. Now what is the state of affairs in Karnataka? And who is to blame? And it actually hurts me so much to say, even Bengaluru city doesn't have drinking water. All within a year, you've seen what the Revdi can do. And now you want center to fund your Revdi? And you blame saying center is discriminating? And there is also another state which has taken us to the court, and I'm quite happy to go to the court and put all the facts before the court. For the mismanagement that states do, I would want the media to ask more meaningful questions of those states as well. Stop this debate of balancing. What is Revdi for you is not Revdi. Come on, tell me. Ask them to show the budgetary statements to say, I have made provision for this particular thing, so I don't need newer taxes on my own people. I've made budgetary provision for this. I will not blame the government if it doesn't give me 1 paisa extra than what the Finance Commission has asked me for. Ask such questions, Anjana. Then you'll know what is Revdi and what is not.
Well, that is a very excellent point. जब freebies का promise होता है, then the government should, the party should be mentioning that, okay, we have such and such budget and we'll be making these provisions so that then we will be able to fund those revenues with these provisions. But none of this happens. And it's also like people are also partly to blame because they don't ask such questions. They are not curious to know such questions. They just want the freebies delivered to them. But it is very important in the long run that we should know where the money is coming from and if the state has the surplus to fund those revenues.
Finance Minister, I want to follow this question up.
Rajdeep, look at Rajdeep's expression.
Finance Minister.
he's like, मैं होता वहाँ पे तो मैं तो पता ही नहीं क्या कर देता है. These people can't do anything. Like Rahul and all, they are not able to handle it. And look at him how he's sitting.
Minister, I want to follow this question up with a broader point about the North-South divide. Fastest growing economy in the G20 nations, faster than any of our rivals. Fourth largest stock market, which is turbocharged right now. But do you think the North-South divide is a crucial concern that will escalate during the election campaigning?
Yeah, obviously, because they'll want to escalate it because it can keep the narrative going in the direction in which they want the narrative to go. But matter of fact, this has been one of those pet themes of state-level parties which think it's good to hit at the center and nobody from the center can come and defend themselves in that state, for instance. So when you have this debate going, I grew up in a Tamil Nadu, which I've heard, even with the Congress party in power in the center, and subsequently every time there was an alliance with the state party, Congress party was an alliance. Even then I've heard comments like, Vadakku vazhudhu terkku theyudu, meaning North prospers and South is theyudu is ragad karke kuch hota hai. You become thinner and paler and everything.
घिस रहा है. घिस रहा है.
So this kind of a narrative I've heard even Tamil Nadu, even when center was ruled by Congress party. It's a typical political narrative which particularly the Dravidian parties, particularly the DMK, has always used to give an impression that center is not doing its due to the state. And none of the ministers in the center, even one or two of them who are from Tamil Nadu themselves, would take it upon themselves to go and defend the center. I would want to believe the center did not discriminate the states even then and even now. But ministers who are part of the central government even at that time, alliance partners of the party DMK, wouldn't go to Tamil Nadu and take the pains to say, no, center doesn't discriminate. So that narrative happily found traction. But today, no, sorry, each one of us go there to say what we are doing, and therefore there are friction points.
But I believe they do it to keep this sense of division alive, so that they know that they belong to a regional party. And as long as this regional consciousness is alive in the people, they will continue to get the vote. So they have ambitions of expanding beyond the region. So at first they have to keep this regional consciousness alive so that they continue to get the vote and they continue to be the ruling or the majority power in that region, and then they can expand. So they to keep their ambition alive, they have to keep this division alive as well, is what I believe, in my opinion.
Points in the narrative. So that is a typical Dravidian political narrative which believes in showing this country as being different in the south and the north being ruled by mostly or largely by non-Tamil or non-South Indian language speaking people in power. So it sells as an argument. But that's not fair at all.
This is the end of part 1 of this video. Thank you for watching till the very end. Please stay tuned for part 2 and maybe part 3 as well. I'll see you guys in the next one.